Story 1. Fear of rejection, awareness of my flaws, and lack of looks. Basically, I stopped myself most of the time. Story 2. I have gone beyond fearing rejection and now expect it. I do not approach women for the same reason I do not buy lottery tickets. I know I am not going to win, so there is no point in trying. Story 3. Unless she shows signs that she is attracted to me, I will leave her alone to enjoy her day rather than hassle her. Story 4. Women have been expressing for decades that they do not want to be approached unless they give permission. I see many attractive women who appear to be single, but they do not provide any clear signals to approach. Story 5. Beyond the internet, I used to go to college within the last 5 years, and the amount of anti-male rhetoric so openly displayed was ridiculous. I would not be surprised if it is still present because I hear the sentiment out in public. Why would good men want to approach if that is the aura being put out about them? Story 6. They always want to be left alone, so I ignore them in public and do not even make eye contact. That is what they want. Story 7. Usually, circumstances were unfavorable to what I was interested in. For example, when I met a nice woman abroad, I did not approach her because even if we clicked perfectly, I was not looking for a long-distance relationship. Similarly, there was a time when I had too many responsibilities to handle by myself, so I would have neglected the relationship if I had started one. Therefore, I simply did not pursue the prospect I had. Story 8. I read that women do not like to be approached in person. I have tried a few times in my teens and early 20s, but they were not very friendly. So I decided to ignore women in public. I will only interact with men unless I have to interact with women. I am 34 years old now. Story 9. I am a potato. I work a job that makes me tired. I feel sad because of this. Then I see a girl, but I do not have the energy. I go home, watch videos, and sleep. Then I repeat this cycle. Story 10. Two big things. I understand that the worst they can say is no, but I am not in a great position to receive another no. I am in a situation where I just need a win of some kind, so I am going to avoid a potential no. I have not felt very good about myself since the pandemic. I feel like I let a lot go and am not bouncing back, which is especially difficult considering it has been about 4 to 5 years since the lockdowns. Story 11. I feel like every time I log onto this subreddit, this question is asked. Is this bot aura farming at this point? Story 12. I have zero social skills. I could approach and say hi, but I have no idea what to do after that. Story 13. She mentioned to her friend that she thought my other friend was attractive. I did not feel like competing with a friend for her, so I did not. Story 14. What? Men have reasons for not approaching women they like, but women try to convince each other that if he wanted to, he would. Story 15. When I was younger, I was made fun of because of my race. Now that I am older, it has been 20 years of women online saying that men should leave them alone and never approach a woman in public. I have seen this hundreds of times from enough different women that I think men have largely taken the message. Story 16. Approaching women for a date feels uncomfortable, no matter how you look at it. I would much rather meet someone through circumstance or in a situation where a date was what we both wanted. Story 17. Total inability to determine whether they mean to advertise singleness or not. People used to wear rings. Now, people do not get married until around 30, and I am tired of asking women out without purpose. We should bring attached ring wearing into style. Story 18. A lifetime of experience has shown women being disinterested or sometimes repulsed. The constant embarrassment and humiliation, along with misreading of my intent, constantly follow me like trauma. Then, further judgment occurs when I am vocal and transparent about it. Nearly all of my successful encounters and connections have some kind of mutual approach with clear, unmistakable indicators of interest. None of this vague, subjective reading of signals and moments nonsense. Just people using their words to clearly communicate. There may have been many missed opportunities for me, but I do not last long with people who are not clear communicators. Story 19. Years of rejection from women have skewed my opinion of my desirability. These days, I often reject myself before I even make eye contact with someone I am attracted to. assuming they will reject me regardless of the impression I make. I have been working on my self-esteem through therapy, but it is a difficult and long process. Story 20. Embarrassment and anxiety, women not wanting you to approach them, worried she might actually be a minor, no good way to approach because she was working. Story 21. The 100-odd women who were only attracted to the emotional validation and support I gave them, not me as a person. Estimated time of arrival. Before I met my wife, the women who expressed any interest in me as a partner fell into at least one of the following categories. 1. They wanted something from me, either my time or my energy. They wanted to confirm that someone still found them attractive so they could feel confident in pursuing the person they were actually attracted to. It was a joke. I'm pretty sure if TikTok had existed when I was in high school, there would be more than one video of a girl going, "Check out this loser who thought he could date me. Hit like and subscribe for more content." They were mentally unstable. I've had too many relationships with women who were emotionally, mentally, and even physically abusive towards me. But there were also few who reciprocated interest in me early on. Or, as I put it later to a lady friend, they were the only ones who returned my phone calls. I realize my experience isn't indicative of women as a whole, but like with wealth, a lot of positive social experiences aren't equally distributed. Story 22. When I was younger, I did not ask out a friend from school for 2 reasons. I had never seen anything to suggest she was interested in me romantically, though we were close. Secondly, she was much more mature than I was. It would not have lasted a month, if that. There is always a reason, though. We were not a good match. She has children, and she lives too far away. Story 23. Motivation. Sometimes it's just, I could go talk to her and it's unclear if I will be rejected, or I could catch the earlier train, get home earlier, and just enjoy a leisurely evening without having to think about rejection at all. And sometimes the leisurely evening just wins. Story 24. Being worried about my appearance, lacking faith in my social skills, and generally feeling insufficient or defective. Back in my lonely days, anytime I received signals of interest from a woman, I would put myself under immense pressure to do and say the right thing. I pretty much paralyzed myself. In an effort to put my best foot forward, I cut my best foot off. Story 25. I have internalized a great deal of literature and discourse about appropriate venues for approaching women and concluded that I should not approach women. Story 26. She's so pretty she probably already has a boyfriend. And even if she doesn't, she'd never be interested in someone like me. To be honest, I'm better about it now that I'm older, more successful, and more confident than I used to be. Sometimes I just go for it, say hi, and start a conversation to see what happens. But sometimes my mind stumbles, and I relapse into those kinds of thoughts above. Story 27. I wasn't ready for a relationship and was too busy spending time doing things I liked and my hobbies. I figured I would be ready when I was ready. I still had flings here and there, but I was always more focused on myself, personal satisfaction, and growth both career-wise and personally. I ended up finding a wife a couple of years ago, now 9 years, whom I love and with whom I have a family. She approached me. Story 28. This person explains it very well. He shares the male perspective on women in a way that validates women's experiences but also emphasizes that the responsibility is on them, and it is difficult to navigate. This explanation was given before the Me Too movement and the bear. Story 29. At the last day of school, I was going to confess to a girl who is my friend. But when I gathered the courage to tell her, her little sister, who I think dislikes me, just dragged her home. Now, half a year later, I am counting the days to see her again. We still play online, but I want to meet in person, especially since much time has passed and we need to get closer again. Story 30. Because her signals became unclear, inconsistent, and distant, and deep down, I did not want to chase someone who might not be emotionally available or interested. So I paused to protect my self-respect. Story 31. I am not like the Hollywood guy who says, "How are you doing?" I am the type who spends 7 months getting to know someone while slowly opening up. Story 32. Society gave women a gun they can trigger with their tongues. By shooting it, it completely ruins a man's life. I just do not want to get shot by that gun. Story 33. Women never signal to me that they are attracted. I am afraid of approaching women not just because of anxiety but also because I have heard often that they do not like being approached and bothered. So I wait until she gives me some nonverbal clue that she is interested, since women almost never approach men. Unfortunately, women do not seem to notice me, even though I put a lot of effort into my appearance. I do not know what to do. Some advice would be appreciated. Story 34. I have been with my wife for over 25 years, so it has been a while since I even thought about it. Before I got married, it was usually nothing more than a basic fear of rejection. It is a funny thing because I had approached women more times than I can count and was rejected often, so it is not like I ever suffered any real harm from rejection. It is also not like I always let the fear of rejection hold me back because, as I said, I approached many women. But sometimes the fear, at least on that particular day, kept me from approaching someone. Nowadays, even though modern dating seems really strange, if I were single for whatever reason, I am pretty sure I would be able to figure it out with women my age. It would be unfortunate to have spent a quarter of a century with someone and not learn something from it. Story 35. She lived in the same apartment building as me. I saw her once, maybe twice a month. We were always heading in opposite directions, and she seemed much cooler than me. Then I got a job at the family-owned grocery store where she worked and began striking up conversations with her whenever I could. She found me on my break one day and asked if I wanted to take a walk with her after work. 6 years later, we have been happily living together for the last 4 years, have a child together, and are planning our wedding. Story 36. Fear of the repercussions. Being accused of something, ending up on a Facebook. Are we dating the same guy group? Story 37. She was the office manager where I worked. She quit her job a month ago. Guess who is sleeping in my bed now? Guys, make your move when the timing is right. Don't look back. Story 38. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria. A 10-second rejection from her feels like 20 years' worth of negative self-talk ammunition in my head. Story 39. No reason to think she wants me to approach her. If I like someone, I put them first above myself. Unless it seems like they want my attention, I would not put them through it just for my own benefit. Story 40. You get close and hear the things she talks about with her friends. How she does not like men, how she would never commit to a man, and how all men are good only for giving her money. I understand that men are providers, but I want to be appreciated and wanted for more than just being a wallet. Similarly, I am sure women want to be appreciated for more than just their bodies. She was gorgeous, but her words diminished her physical attractiveness instead of enhancing it. Story 41. Deteriorating physical abilities are making it harder for me to feel desirable on the dating market. I am only 62 but have some physical issues. For most of my life, I have not had to ask someone out. They usually make the first move to show their interest. I am completely clueless when a woman is attracted to me, according to a lifelong female friend who sees it clearly, so it is always a surprise when they give me their number without me asking. I am single at the moment but wish I were not. Long ago it was tough. Low self-worth and fear of rejection, along with feeling worse for trying, were big challenges. Story 42. To be honest, it is because so many people have told me that I am intimidating. Even my friends have admitted I used to scare them before they learned how I am, so I generally do not approach people. If someone approaches me, then I will gladly respond and they will see me light up with a smile, but I do not approach others for fear that I will scare them. Story 43. Living in a culture that criticizes and demonizes men for expressing their attraction to women. Story 44. I overanalyze the situation, leading me to believe that anything that is not a good sign must be a bad sign, pushing me away from making a move. So I end up either fumbling the interaction or avoiding it altogether. Story 45. The same old question. What am I going to say to her? I've never been good at starting conversations. Most of the time, I'm the one being approached, mostly by men looking to be friends, which is unfortunate if I want to meet a girl. Story 46. Fear of rejection and low self-esteem. I went through puberty during the height of the Leave Us Alone movement of the last 2 decades, So the only thing teenage me was learning about how to talk to girls was to avoid it. Otherwise, I was considered creepy. Growing up, I did not have a clear idea of how to talk to a girl. Story 47. I thought about it, and as attractive as she was, I realized our personalities and interests were not a good match. So I did not pursue her despite her showing interest. Story 48. The absolute certainty that there was no way she would be interested in someone like me. Story 49. If the perceived chance of success is much lower than the perceived chance of rejection, I would rather save everyone time and simply go about my day. Story 50. Got tired of it. Dating is not how it was before COVID-19. Now everyone heavily relies on social media to portray a person. I do not need to hear that you have a doctor of philosophy in TikTok. Story 51. I did not feel good enough. I could have asked her out, but then what? I did not have a car or anything. Story 52. Am I supposed to approach every attractive woman? The serious answer for me anyway is if she is with friends or family. One-on-one, not a problem. At least not back when I used to do those things. Today, it might be a problem because it is not the same as it used to be. Story 53. Usually, I avoid approaching women because I see them with a man or wearing a wedding ring. Otherwise, it is usually because they are not in what I consider to be a socially acceptable setting. If it were something like a concert or a bar and they were obviously taken, I might consider it. I am not going to talk to a woman jogging alone in the park or buying groceries. The problem is, I never see anyone who is not obviously taken in social settings either. Story 54. I was falsely accused of rape and sexual assault during my freshman year of high school. It changed my perception of women. I will never put myself in a position where I cannot prove my innocence, so approaching women is no longer an option, regardless of how attractive they are. Story 55. She was a coworker on the same team. The risk was high. If she gave me any hint that she liked me too, maybe, but she gave me none. Story 56. Nothing, because all they can do is say, I am not interested, and you keep it moving. I have had the pleasure in my life to meet women who had previously turned me down through a mutual friend. Small world indeed. Story 57. The only places where I am regularly in contact with women are at work or the gym. Both are places where, if something goes wrong, I could lose my job or be banned from the gym. Outside of these locations, I avoid approaching women if they are dressed too revealingly. Years ago, I experienced a difficult situation where a woman told me that I probably only wanted to talk to her because I approached her while she was facing away from me and wearing very tight clothing. I admit she had a wonderful figure, but that was not the only reason I was interested. However, she was very clear about how I approached her while she was bending over moments before. Since then, I have chosen not to approach women who are wearing revealing clothing. Story 58. I have no fear of rejection. I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or develop a reputation as a creep. Which is dumb, because if a woman I wasn't interested in approached me, I wouldn't be uncomfortable, nor would I find that creepy, as long as she handled rejection tastefully. But in my experience, both the uncomfortable and creep results have happened, so I usually don't bother unless she makes the first move. Honestly, with how much women are concerned about creepy men, being left alone, and being overly sexualized in today's society, we would be better off normalizing women approaching men anyway. Story 59. I mostly do not approach people because I only recently learned I am decent enough looking to not automatically be considered a creep. Now, it is just confidence and motivation. My biggest problem is genuinely motivation. I also do not quite have my life together yet. It is a lot. Story 60. The only thing that has stopped me recently is that I am married. Before that, I approached women regularly, playing the probability game. Who cares if you get a ton of no's as long as you eventually get those yes? Story 61. 1. Not wanting to cheat, which is usually the reason. I know her personality well enough to know it would not work out. It is inappropriate for the situation. Story 62. To be honest, I did not know her at all, so I was unsure if she would be the type of person I would want to spend time with. Her appearance alone is not enough reason to approach her, especially since I grew up hearing that women generally do not want men to approach them. Story 63. She was too aggressive and only led with her sexuality. She bit her lip and purred the first time I said hello to her. We had never even had a full conversation. Whenever I tried to have a normal conversation with her, she was short but still tried to do things to make me jealous and get my attention. The only reason I said hello when she was passing was because a coworker said she thought I was racist. She is Mexican. I am just very introverted, not racist. Now I realize that was just a ploy to get me to make a move so she could be aggressive. I have also seen her be mean to every guy she thinks is unattractive, which is a major turnoff. Story 64. I have a two-touch rule. If I don't interact with someone twice, I don't make the connection. I apply this rule to all forms of intimacy, whether sexual or friendship. I generally make exceptions only for networking and professional connections. Story 65. I couldn't breathe, and my stomach was in knots. I couldn't function, let alone contemplate conversation. Story 66. I'm 36 years old now, but when I was 11 or 12, in 7th grade, puberty hit me hard. One of the many changes was that the little crushes I had on some of my classmates became something I actually wanted to act on by asking one of them out. One girl in particular, I'll call her Courtney. I thought she was gorgeous with electric light green eyes, full lips, and tan skin, which may not have actually been a tan. She was admirable for being athletic and smart, being on the girls' basketball team, probably another sport as well, but I only knew about basketball and being in more advanced classes than myself. Courtney and I had some classes together over a couple of years, but honestly, we had almost no direct interaction. The few friends I had mostly didn't overlap with her friend group, and I was cripplingly shy as well as chubby. Objectively speaking, I was foolish for this, but since I struggled to talk around her, I naturally decided to write her a note, about half a page, handwritten on college-ruled lined paper. I then asked a mutual friend, a guy everyone knew and liked, to deliver my note to her as a favor. He agreed, took it from me, and rolled off in his wheelchair to find her. I didn't see Courtney read my note, but I found out that my friend found her while she was with some of her friends and gave her my note as promised. I don't know if he said anything to her, but she opened it and started to read when he left to come hang out with me. What I think happened is she read it and immediately showed her friends, who laughed heartily at my awkward expense. I guess this because a couple of Courtney's friends pointed and laughed at me several times afterward. I deserved it. Hardly ever speaking to someone and then seemingly out of nowhere confessing interest. Yeah, I understand it was a bad idea. As a sort of redirection of my feelings, without having sorted through them yet, I shortly after that went up to another girl I was a little more friendly with and took a shot. I asked if she'd like to go see a movie in theaters, though I don't remember which one. She was really kind and said she couldn't because she had to babysit. These experiences were formative for me. I've never asked anyone else out. In high school, I was friends with two girls. I fooled around with one as a sort of open relationship or friends with benefits type arrangement, and I actually dated the other for about 6 months. They're the only two I met organically like that. Every other date I've had or come close to having was through a dating app or site, probably 40 to 50 dates and a couple dozen partners mixed in there. All of this while being over 350 pounds, most times over 400 pounds. I was a chubby boy with crippling shyness, and now I'm a fat man who puts that shyness in a box it occasionally escapes from. My reasons for not asking anyone out today have evolved somewhat. Do you remember about a year ago when the internet was on fire thanks to the whole man or bear debate? Who would you rather see in the woods? Almost every woman who wrote or said anything about it seemed to think the man was scarier or more dangerous, and that really told me what men needed to know. All the weapons on hand, all the training available, all of the opportunities manifested will do you absolutely no good if you even do a threat assessment. I have no idea how uncommon murder is, but even if the idea is he's either a murderer or not, that's 50%. Realistically, the bear would likely run away based on what I understand, but let's pretend it won't. It's still orders of magnitude more dangerous than a random man. You can't outrun it, outclimb it, outswim it, or even fight it. You could do all those things to escape a man, and that's even assuming he's one of those dangerous types. Random does not equal dangerous here. You could be with Mr. Rogers chilling next to a fire, but you will never meet Yogi Bear. Know what I'm saying? The point is that women said they think men are dangerous, gross, creepy, harassing, and so on. The consistent mantra is that women want men to leave them alone. At a job, leave them alone. At the gym, leave them alone. Shopping, leave them alone. That's what women say they want. No means no. So I treat every woman I'm not friends with or related to as, at best, friendly. I absolutely have missed hints by doing this, and it's been a contributing factor to my never being married with no kids. I've also never been accused of impropriety. I have strangely turned multiple women down. I'm not saying I'm fighting for my life here. I just mean I should not be in any position to have the standards to turn any woman away considering I'm morbidly obese, and when I think about it, it's kind of crazy. I've turned away women willing to be intimate without a relationship, something I understand most guys would love, because I want a real connection with someone who has at least half of what I'm looking for. This has resulted in my last relationship and actual sex being in March 2020, 5 years ago and change. I might just turn into a wizard. Story 67. Taken. Did not have a chance. Incompatible personality, lifestyle, religion, and so on. It was not a good opportunity at that stage in my life. But I mean, did not have a chance kind of automatically overrides everything else, does it not? Story 68. For decades, women have told men not to approach them. Now that men are not approaching, it has become a problem. Story 69. All I ever heard growing up was stuff about men harassing and objectifying women, not leaving them alone, women just wanting to enjoy themselves on a night out, getting hit on being exhausting, and so on. The first time in my life I saw something positive being said about a man approaching a woman from the woman's perspective was on Reddit a couple of years ago in a thread specifically about that. How broken are we that it took that long to see it framed in a positive light? Also, it is the slow march of negative reinforcement. If there are no positive experiences to balance out the bad or mediocre ones, over time the weariness piles up. Each time it takes longer to get back up again, you get up slightly lower, and it takes a little less to knock you down again. Society at large treats that feeling with nothing but contempt. So many men just end up suffering in silence. Story 70. She was with what I can only assume was her partner since they were holding hands and kissing. I do not think he would have liked it. Story 71. Rejection and false accusation stories, the Me Too movement, and this new generation of feminism. I am also shy and have low confidence. People say I am handsome, and I always thought it was people being nice, but I am not sure. There are also many double standards and expectations. I am trying to overcome people-pleasing and pushover habits. Story 72. She was my sister's friend, so out of respect, I did not say anything and kept interactions to a reasonable minimum. That being said, I could not stop looking at her eyes any chance I got because they were the most beautiful shade of amber. Story 73. I assume the real-life success rate is approximately equal to the match rate on the applications. I still do it, but only when I almost literally bump into a woman I like while out walking my dog or something. Story 74. I have a mental blockage that makes me think I do not deserve the things I want in life, so if it takes any effort whatsoever, I do not do it. It was easier to make peace with that notion than to fight it. Story 75. No evidence that she is kind or caring. The vast majority of women are just expectation factories that genuinely do not care about me. They believe themselves to be a prize that I need to earn. It is so standard at this point that I would rather approach known kind women than to see if an attractive one is kind. The odds are very low. I am not hurt. I have had almost entirely good experiences with women I have dated. The kind women are rare, but they are very good. I listen to most women talk, and I am just glad I am not trying to date them. Others talk, and they sound genuinely nice. So I only approach women I have already heard are nice. Story 76. Honestly, there is no way for me to sugarcoat this. Women have the most outrageous expectations that men should have. Some examples. He has to be 6 feet tall. He has to make 6 figures. He has to be very fit. All while they do not have to change for anyone. If I have to make a change to be in their life while they do not have to change themselves, why should I tolerate that kind of selfish behavior? At what point do preferences become expectations? Story 77. Being too self-aware of the logistics. For my part, after a short exchange, I found out she was from Canada. She is super cool, but I am from Australia. It was a chance meeting at an event, and she would be flying back soon as her work involves a lot of traveling. I do not know if she has a partner either, and given her work, I bet she gets hit on enough. Even so, the what-ifs really suck. Story 78. Fear of being slapped in the face out of nowhere is why I do not approach anyone, purely because of this irrational fear. Story 79. I will approach women I am attracted to, but I will not approach women I find very attractive. I am average-looking and realistic. I know I am unlikely to succeed, so I will save us some time and awkwardness. Story 80. Previously, I entered relationships with attractive women that turned out to be terrible situations. I am no longer interested in dating based solely on looks. I do not use dating applications, and I do not ask out anyone I have not met more than once. Story 81. Like the first comment, mine goes another layer deeper. I have been forced to believe, and still do, that girls are not going to want to marry a guy who cannot do yard work or some other activity that a wheelchair disqualifies him from doing. From there, I got the idea that no one attractive is going to want to date me. That caused my self-esteem to take a huge dip, and I was afraid of rejection. So I just did not. Story 82. I stop when I see that she is looking for a committed partner, while I only want to sleep with her a few times. Story 83. Nerves. Then a friend told me she was gay. That was not true. She just was not attracted to him. She did have a boyfriend, though. We are friendly, but she got married, and then the COVID-19 pandemic happened. Story 84. I treat everyone as just another person, and I do not initiate with flirty behavior. They pretty much never seem interested, and when they do, it is never real. Maybe something will fall out of the sky, but I am not hopeful at this point. Story 85. For me, I know I am not fit to be a husband or a father. I like casual relationships, but they are difficult to initiate if you respect women. Story 86. 3 things, in order of importance. 1. She is my coworker. Resting bitch face. She may be my type physically, but we have nothing in common. Story 87. Let's start with the obvious and most common. She shows no signs of any attraction to me. Other cases could be attributed to a general fear of rejection and low self-esteem, especially when younger. This may have lessened but certainly never disappeared. Those you consider way out of your league are less likely to be approached. Another factor could be the circumstances. Either she is with a group of her female friends, it is hard enough getting approval from one woman, much less the whole group, in a hurry or in a place not conducive to approaching. Then there is who she might be, a friend's ex or current partner, part of a close friend group, which raises concerns about changing dynamics, or even a friend of your parents, which can be awkward in many ways. Story 88. Not having a card with my new phone number and Linktree is inconvenient. It is useful for quick interactions. I need to get around to creating one. Story 89. Just the usual. Crippling social anxiety and the fear that my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder will accidentally ghost her and ruin it, her girlfriend, my boyfriend. Story 90. We were all there to watch a soccer match. She had a strong presence about her, and I made note of it. I hope I see her there again. Story 91. Being inconsistent, closed off, and flaky. I need someone who actually shows up and is considerate of other people's time. Story 92. She was in my friend group and would share terrible stories about broke people and losers trying to have sex with her through the dating app, and it was immediately obvious I would be just another broke person and loser to her. Story 93. She smoked cigarettes, which was the only reason I held back. It ended up working out, as she is now engaged to my best friend, and I could not be happier. Story 94. Her friends and personality. Physical appearance initially gets me interested, but it is her character that maintains that interest. Her friends will also have opinions which could be welcoming, hostile, or somewhere in between. Story 95. I'm not truly attracted to women I don't know. I can find them visually attractive, but that happens often in day-to-day life, so none of them stand out enough for me to want to take the risk. If men approached every woman they found very attractive, Women would be swarmed everywhere all the time. My understanding is that this is already a problem for attractive women, and you don't want that. I need a very clear signal that I am welcome, as well as something to talk about or ask. I can't just start a conversation from nothing. Story 96. I am shy, but I also do not care. I realize that I am only interested in how she physically looks. When I think about that, all interest fades. Story 97. Any guy who has been interested in me has asked for my phone number after having a conversation. That only happens when I leave the house. I am an introvert, but lately I have been getting out more. And I always end up with a guy trying to start a conversation. They have all been cute, so I do not mind. Story 98. Timing kind of sucks when you like someone but also know you are absolutely swamped with responsibilities and not in a good place to date. It is not fair to them if you make a move then, so I think it might be best to hope they are still available later on and approach them then. But sometimes these windows of opportunity disappear too. It is fickle. Story 99. The fact that I have no game, no personality, am unattractive, and feel suicidal. I am smart enough to know that I should not waste someone's time. Story 100. She was married. She was lesbian. I like my life. When you are miserable, it is easier to imagine a relationship improving things. When you are happy, the list of things she could ruin grows a lot. It would cost money. I am on track to retire early, and some women are judgmental about it. A man without a job is a waste of oxygen vibes, only couched in more acceptable words, like some talk about being a provider or lacking drive. I have drive. It is just to escape the rat race. She wants kids. She wants a dad for the kids she already has. She wants somebody to rescue her from the life she made for herself. Fat and balding. Just because I might be attracted does not matter much if she is not. If women rate average men a 3, there is not much scale left for me. Story 101. The fact that I did this dance, got married, bought a house, and had kids, only to find it was all a smoke and mirrors show and the joke was on me. Story 102. Knowing that the chances were low, I was rejected faster than the speed of light as soon as I arrived. Story 103. Nervous. I tend to either feel like I am being a bother, going to be judged, or going to be anxious and say the wrong thing. That only happens about 1/3 of the time, but that is enough to make me nervous about repeats. The feeling like a bother also has the possibility of being perceived as creepy. I know I am not, but that makes it more difficult because I have to run through a checklist of things I have learned are considered creepy, which were not clearly defined when I was younger or have vague boundaries. I do not ask people out enough to make it second nature. I have to think about it, which makes me more nervous. I was not good at this before. We had a list of avoid this, don't do this, that applied on top of normal manners everyone should have. Now it is, here are things we have always found unpleasant, and some new ones that developed recently. Do not do this anymore. Admittedly, that is good to know, but it also adds complexity to something that was already hard for me. To be completely fair, that is everything these days. Job hunting, bills, services, customer service calls. Story 104. I was obese and did not realize that what I was experiencing was romantic attraction. Only months after I saw her for the last time did I realize that I was in love with her. Story 105. The restraining order. For the women reading, this is what is known as humor. It is not intended to be taken seriously. Story 106. Mostly not wanting to be a bother or creep, but also many other smaller reasons. While we are on the subject, you do not get to be upset with me for not trying to get with you if you are not putting in at least half the effort. I am perfectly okay with all of my nights out ending without intimacy. If you are not okay with that, then maybe it should be your responsibility to put in the groundwork to make the connections. I do not want to hear any support about how I should just go talk to her and make a move. If she wants a move made, she is welcome to do it herself. Story 107. She told me no once. Then I had a glow up, I guess. She started looking at me a lot. I thought it was a sign that I should make a move, but I didn't because I had already given her a chance and she rejected me. She didn't even give me a chance. I wanted to dance with her at a party. I rarely give second chances to people, only to those I see who are willing to change for the better and are humble about life. Story 108. thinking about what I can offer another person. I work, go home and play games, putter around the house fixing things, or plan small excursions to places I want to try or like. I can't take long vacations because of work. Work leaves me physically exhausted from heavy labor. Even with good morals and upbringing, I don't ask people for help unless truly necessary, and I don't like spending money on anything that isn't constantly useful. It's a solitary life. I'm sure no woman wants this. They need gifts because I can't or won't convey my feelings in a way that makes them understand I am trying to make them my world. In the end, after working hard to make them my everything, they always have the opportunity to find greener pastures with someone else, and I can do nothing about it. Just left as a dried-out, used-up husk. Story 109. Being completely clueless. That is not an exaggeration. What does approach even mean? Just walk up to her? What am I supposed to say? Let us date? You are attractive? Or just wait for her to say something? I really am clueless. Story 110. Not being successful or experiencing mental health challenges can be difficult. It is best to focus on yourself first. Story 111. My dog wants first dibs when she comes home. I can only hug her after the dog is done asking for treats and hugging her. Story 112. A point that women refuse to comprehend is that women inherently cost men money. I am not saying all women need you to spend money on purses or boats, but you do cost us. Do not believe me? Ask men how much money they have when they are single versus when they are in a relationship. The difference is night and day. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.